Show of hands, how many people found that to be an easy assignment?
Easy?
Easy? Oh, all right. So at the end of the day, there isn't any right or there isn't any wrong answer, right? Essentially, as a leader, we all should have a combination of all of those qualities. And it's important to do this kind of exercise because it gives you definition in terms of the type of leader that you want to become. We are somewhere in between who we are and what we're trying to become. And so it's important that to be able to add definition to the type of leader that you want to become because it helps you to grow. One of the things I tell leaders all the time is that growth is not automatic. It is something that has to be intentional. And so to be able to add definition and say, okay, integrity is important to me. So as a leader, I need to develop my own integrity. If I am a creative person, right? Creativity is important. How do I take the necessary steps to become a better creative leader? And so with that, I hope you keep a mental note or keep the papers that you've chosen. And I want to challenge you to do the steps necessary to build the type of leader that you want to become. Because oftentimes what we're looking for is really what we want to become. And so when you are able to identify these things, it helps you to become the leader that God has called you to be. And it's important that we do things intentionally, all right? So that being said, as leaders, we all have a responsibility to add value. Add value is the key thing of one of the key aspects of leadership. Before we jump in, two things I want to establish. You can take notes. Don't worry about not getting everything, because I know sometimes you're trying to take notes and you miss things. At the end of the presentation, I'll have a QR code where you can scan and get a copy of the notes. But still take notes because you have to get your own part, what you get from it. But if you miss anything, don't worry, all right? That being said, want to establish a baseline. It's important that we all understand and know that we are all leaders. We are all leaders. Many people think of leadership as just being a title or a position, but leadership really is a mindset and an attitude. And so whether you're leading your children, leading your family, leading a ministry, leading a global company, leading the 2 dogs that you got at home, you're a leader in some aspect because we all add value and we all have influence. I like to establish that as a baseline first because many people come to sessions and they say, I'm not a leader, and they think that these tools don't qualify for these tools or for this kind of conversation. But every person has, in an aspect of their lives, play a leadership role. And so when we talk about resilient leadership, the first thing we have to understand is the role of a leader. Miles Monroe has this really good book that I love called The Spirit of Leadership. And in The Spirit of Leadership, he defines leadership as the capacity to influence others through inspiration, motivated by a passion, generated by a vision, produced by a conviction, and ignited by a passion. I love this definition because it highlights influence, inspiration, motivation, passion, vision, conviction, and purpose. So all these things fall into this definition of a leader. But most important thing is that as leaders, we add value. And so as leaders, the role of a leader is to, one, build vision. And that's add value to the organization that you're a part of, whether it's your church, your ministry, your job, or your family, right? Each of us are born with a vision, and we're born with a purpose that God has given us, right? And so with that being said, a leader has the role of articulating and building a compelling and inspiring vision for the future. Whatever thing you're passionate about, whatever thing bothers you, that generally is in the field of where your vision or your calling is. And so as a leader, You have the capability to add value to whatever organization, whatever cause, whatever ministry you're a part of. Another important aspect of a leader is to build other leaders, to add value to people. Leaders play a crucial role in identifying and building leaders, and effective leaders empower others by providing opportunities for growth and development. If you're a parent, you're leading your children, you teach your children life lessons, you send them to school, you provide different opportunities for them to learn and to grow and to mature because you want them to be valuable citizens in the community, right? We instill our core values into them because we want them to grow. If you're a manager or a pastor, you build up other leaders to be able to go out and add value. Last thing is to add value to the society, creating a lasting impact. I say all the time that each person that God created was created with a problem to solve. God created each and every one of us with a problem to solve in the world. And so it's important that we understand that we play a role in adding value to society, whether it's in our local community, whether it's globally. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, there is a problem that God created and put you on this earth to solve. And so as you live your life of purpose, you're designed to bring impact and add value to the sphere of influence that you have. And when you leave this earth, you should be leaving the world a better place than when you came. Amen. That's why God designed us. Right? So these things are very important. Adding value to organizations, adding value to people, adding value to society. These are some of the roles of a leader. Now let's talk about some ingredients of a leader. We did a little mini exercise to kind of get our minds working and thinking. But as leaders, there are certain ingredients and certain qualities that you must have. Character. Who you are is very important as a leader. That character involves integrity, trustworthiness, authenticity, humility, compassion. All of these things are key aspects in having the character, who you are. Who you are when things are good. Who you are when things are bad. Who you are when things are mediocre. Because people think that everything is always just high and low, and most of life is just in the middle, where you're just going day by day. So who are you in that middle point? Competency, what you know. As leaders, you got to be able to know the field and the area that you are in, or else you're put in a situation of blind leading the blind into a ditch. It's good to have passion and have a desire, but you have to know what you're doing. And so wisdom, knowledge, expertise, growth mindset, problem-solving skills, adaptability, all these are important aspects of being a competent leader. How you act, courage. As we're going to be talking about resilient leadership, it's important to understand courage, right? Because people think that as a leader, you have to be fearless all the time. And truth of the matter is that you don't have to be fearless, you just have to be courageous. Because how courage works is that the fear is there, but you press through the fear towards the goal that you're trying to accomplish. And so you don't have to always feel fearless. You don't have to always feel confident. Let's lay that out, because people think that as leaders, you have to always be confident. As a leader, you have to have courage until you build confidence. Because confidence only comes when you practice and do things in a repetitious manner, where you start to understand and know things in a repeated manner. And so now you're confident. We all have jobs. When you first started in your job and you did onboarding, you kind of wasn't sure how I'm gonna just show up to work because that's what they made me to do. I don't know what I'm doing yet. But then when you're doing your job for a couple of years, then you start to feel more confident because you're growing in it and you're getting experience. And so courage is a very important aspect. Courage builds boldness, it builds resilience, it builds conviction, it builds compassion, and it builds focus. And then the last thing is creativity, how you think. You have to have vision. You have to have imagination. Leaders must have imaginations. Why? Because there are problems you need to solve. There are things that you're going to face and address that may not necessarily have been seen before. You, certainly, as a leader, having to navigate the unknown, will face things that you've never seen before. So how do I get across this barrier? How do I get over this wall? Right? And so that involves having imagination and creativity and thinking of different strategies on how to overcome. And so these four, there's a whole lot more, but for the sake of time, I've only listed four: character, competency, courage, and creativity. All of these things are very vital ingredients that a leader must possess to be effective, especially if you're a resilient leader. Talk about resiliency, right? So now that we've established a bit of a foundation, being a resilient leader, when you think about resiliency, what are some words that come to mind?
Stick to itness.
Ooh, like that. Stick to itness. Bounce back. Anyone else? Grit, perseverance. All of these aspects are vital for resilience. One of the things that's important about being a resilient leader and a resilient person in general is that it's about the bounce back without losing passion. Can you bounce back from adversity and challenges and trials and failures and still maintain the passion that you had before? Because we all get saved and we're, Jesus, I love you, I want to serve you, right? Or you find a cause that you're passionate about, and it's great because you have so many ideas and everything is young and everything is fresh. But then you face adversity, you face resistance, and you face challenges, and you run into dead ends. And so how do you bounce back without losing the passion that you first had when you first started? That's what resiliency is. It's more than just bouncing back, because you can bounce back and just go with the flow and just do things as is. But when you're able to bounce back and still maintain the passion, that's what resiliency is. Resilient leadership is the ability to bounce back from uncertainty, adversity, and failure. Resilient leaders possess the ability to remain composed, adaptable, and decisive in challenging situations while fostering a culture of resilience. As a leader, you not only have to be resilient yourself, but the people that you're leading, you have to instill that resilience as well, which becomes challenging because you're dealing with different personalities all the time. And you have to know how to manage those personalities to be able to get everybody on board with the resiliency. It is important as a resilient leader to understand that failure is a part of the process, and being able to bounce back from the failure. And to, as John Maxwell, he has this book called Failing Forward, being able to fail forward. There's a quote that says, failing forward is the ability to get back up after you've been knocked down, learn from your mistakes, and move forward in a better direction. When you're failing forward, you're able to establish those things and understand that it is the ability to get up, but also be better. That's what resilient leadership is all about, being able to be better once you bounce back. And so when you're talking about bouncing back in resilient leadership, there are 6 qualities that I want to highlight today that I think will be vital in terms of helping us to grow as resilient leaders. Clear vision and strong identity, discipline and grit, effective communication, creativity and adaptability, emotional intelligence, and my last and favorite one, rest and self-care. So we're going to get into it. That's my favorite one. The number one key aspect of being a resilient leader is you have to have clear vision and strong identity. Clear vision provides direction and promotes alignment. It provides a roadmap for decision making. When you have a clear vision, and I always compare life to navigating the seas, right? Because boats and captains that are sailing boats, right? The sea is this open unknown that sailors are constantly navigating on a day-to-day basis. And such is life, where life is a combination of navigating the unknown. And if you ever see a sea captain or a sailboat captain, when they are sailing their boat, whatever their destination is, regardless of if they have to pass through a storm, they do not shift their destination. If you're on a cruise that is going to the Bahamas and a storm comes, you're not going to divert unless it's absolute dire. But generally, they are trained to be able to navigate through the storm to still get you to the Bahamas. They're not going to, all because there's a storm, take you to Aruba, right? And so as a leader, you have to be able to have clear vision, to know where you're going, so that when storms arise and challenges arise, you don't veer from the destination that you're trying to get to. And so clear vision helps to provide the direction, but also helps you to make proper decisions. It's very easy when things get shaky to change your vision, to change your goals, to compromise your goals. It's very easy because it's convenient. As human beings, we don't like inconvenience. We don't like to be uncomfortable. But when you have a clear vision, it helps you to say, all right, this decision, I need to make this decision. This opportunity is not in alignment with the vision that I'm trying to accomplish, so I'm not going to say yes to this opportunity. Yes, there are millions of dollars available here, but this is not the direction that you have that we need to go into. Especially when there's challenges, right? And I work with a lot of pastors, so especially when you're a pastor of a ministry and things are going awry and things are going out of control, and everyone has an idea. Pastor, we should do this, or we should do this. And if you listen to all of them, you'll be spinning in circles. You'll be spinning in circles. But there comes a point where you have to say, all right, I appreciate that idea, stick a pin in it, but this is where we're going. And being able to stick to your guns because you know where you're trying to go. So it helps with decision making. It helps to create a sense of purpose and helps to create focus. And clear vision is an opportunity to promote unity and collaboration. Hey, everyone. I know things are crazy, and it seems like we are in a bit of a conundrum, but let's bring it all together. Let's use your strengths, and your strengths to push this thing forward. When you're starting a new business or a nonprofit in its infancy stage, you're grabbing and drawing from the strengths of the people that are on your team to say, all right, we're stuck in this place. How can we move forward? And so it's an opportunity to create unity and to promote collaboration. And it's an opportunity to pivot without losing your way. Now, strong identity. Our identities are a makeup of our core beliefs, values, and principles, and it provides stability and anchors and keeps us anchored. You never see any boat that doesn't have an anchor. Because when the storms are too wild and too uncontrollable, you need the anchor to keep you stable. That's what our core values and our beliefs do for us. You ever see someone go through a traumatic situation and they start to wonder, who am I? Mm-hmm. This is what everyone goes through. And so every now and again, you have to come back to your base and say, all right, what do I believe? What are my values? What am I not willing to change? What are the principles that are going to guide my decisions, that's going to guide my life, that's going to guide who I am? Because when you know who you are, no matter what goes around, it will not knock you off your square. That's right. It will not knock you out of position, because I know this is who I am, this is who I always was, who I've always been, and this is who I'm going to be regardless of what everything around me says about me. We are in a time of social media where people are quick to tell you who you are and quick to tell you about yourself, right? And if you are not comfortable in who you are, you will allow that to pull you off of your path. In general, whenever we're trying to do something new, there's always going to be someone that's going to say you can't do it. There's always going to be someone to say that you're not enough, that you don't have what it takes. If it fails, it's your fault. But when you know who you are and you have a strong identity that's rooted in your core values and your beliefs, all that is just noise. and it's not going to break your focus or keep you from going where you're trying to go. And so it keeps you grounded, and it's an opportunity to grow through mistakes and failures. One of the hardest things to overcome is a failure. Because sometimes we feel like our failures identify us as who we are. Failures is just another step in the path. As leaders, we have to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable and navigating the unknown. You're going to make mistakes. I'm a father. I'm going to make mistakes with my children. I'm a husband. I'm going to make mistakes as a husband. But that doesn't define who I am. It's just a moment in time where I made a mistake and I need to pivot. But oftentimes, we allow our failures to get us so down and so disappointed and so discouraged to the point where it's like, I'm stuck here because I never healed, or I never allowed myself to be healed from it. I never allowed God to heal me of it. And so when I should have been further 10 years down the line, I'm still here because this thing shook my identity. And so when you have a strong identity, it gives you the resilience, that bounce back that we're talking about, to be able to say, it's another step in the process. All right? This is what it is. Keep it moving. That's right. And so being able to understand that failure is a part of the process and you're going to fail your way into success. Discipline and grit. Discipline enables leaders to build mastery, consistency, and credibility. Helps you to focus on long-term goals. Discipline is very vital because it helps you to develop automatic habits. When you practice something often enough, it becomes an automatic habit. So when things are good and when things are bad, you still stay following through on what you've been practicing. When we wake up in the morning, we brush our teeth, right? Because we've been practicing. So whether I'm feeling great this morning, or I'm feeling down this morning, or I'm feeling tired this morning, because I've been practicing this, brushing my teeth is not going to shift because of how I feel, right? It's an automatic behavior because I've been disciplined to brush my teeth. How many of us watch football? All right. In football, they have this thing called the 2-minute drill, where it's a set of plays that are designed that when you're in the last 2 minutes of a game is going to get you across the field to get you a touchdown. Tom Brady has 7 rings because he's a master of the 2-minute drill. Patrick Mahomes is on his way to greatness because he is a master of the 2-minute drill. 2-minute drill are plays that they practice until they can't forget it, so that when they get into that situation in the real game, it's muscle memory and it's all right. This is what we need to do. No one is trying to figure out where did I go. Everybody knows where their position is. They know their role that they need to play, and it becomes a part of who they are because they've been practicing it. That's how discipline works. In that when things are out of control, you already know because I've been practicing these things. And I've been doing it on a regular basis, so now it's automatic muscle memory behavior. Watch the Super Bowl and saw San Francisco get the field goal. And I watched it and I said, this game is over. Because they gave Patrick Mahomes too much time.
Right. I saw that game.
Too much time to get across the field. Why? Because even though it's a chaotic situation where they're down, Patrick Mahomes already knows how to turn it on because of discipline. And so Jim Rohn, he has a quote that says, success is nothing more than a few simple discipline practices every day. Discipline helps us that when we are in situations of adversity, it helps us to continue regardless of our emotional, mental state. Grit is important because it enables leaders to persevere. When you ask what is grit, grit is that thing inside of you that never wants to give up. That thing inside of me that just says, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I don't want to do nothing, but I just can't give up. David, he was going through what he was going through, and he got to a point where he said, "Soul, why are you downcast? Hope in God." He was going through what he was going through, and he, by all means and by all logic, he should have gave up and he should have quit. But there was something inside of him that said, "Why are you discouraged? Hope in the Lord." Jeremiah was being beaten, he was being abused, he was being imprisoned, he was suffering for the sake of preaching the gospel and giving the word of the Lord, and he wanted to give up. He wanted to quit ministry. But when he wanted to quit, he said that it's just fire shot up in my bones. That's grit. Where I want to sleep. I don't want to get up. I want to just watch Netflix. I don't want to do nothing. But there's something inside of me that has pushed me that I gotta get up and I gotta do it. I failed. I messed up. I made a mistake. But I can't just stay here. That's what grit is. That's the essence of the bounce back and resiliency, because you allow that what's deep inside of you to that inner fire to say, listen. As much as everything outside is saying to just throw in the towel, I just can't do it. And that's what grit is. That's why grit and discipline are vital in terms of being a resilient leader, because as much adversity and challenges you're going to face, there has to be something inside of you that says, it didn't work, but I'm not going to give up. Effective communication. All leaders must know not just to communicate, but to be able to communicate effectively. You ever had a conversation with someone and you're driving a point and their response to you has nothing to do with the point that you were just talking about? And you're like, that's what you just got from this conversation? I said all of this. I'm a minister, so I will preach a message and I'll be driving these points, and then someone will come and say, hey, that was a great message. I liked when you said this. And the point that they'll bring up is a side quest from my mission. It's just a side point that I was trying to make, and they highlight that, and you go, that's what you got from the message? Because even though you're communicating, not everyone is receiving the message. And so one of the challenges of being a leader is that you have to be able to communicate effectively, not just communicate. Clear communication ensures that information, expectations, and goals are understood by everyone. A lot of relationships get damaged because of uncommunicated expectations. Where you thought everything was good between the two of us, and then all of a sudden you just stop engaging. All of a sudden, in the social media age, you unfollowed me. You don't respond to my texts. You leave me on red. And come to find out that it was because I failed to meet the expectation that you failed to communicate with me. And so when you're, as a leader, clear communication gives that information and sets those expectations and those goals and makes it clear so that everyone understands and everyone is on the same page. It reduces misunderstanding, minimizes errors so that everyone is on the same page. This point is vital. Leaders who communicate openly and transparently, especially during difficult times, build trust, reduce uncertainty, and rally support. When everything seems chaotic and everything is going out of sorts, being able to communicate and being open and transparent will allow people to trust you more. When you lose someone's trust, that's one of the hardest things to get back. And so when you're open and you're transparent, it makes people trust you more, and they build their confidence in your leadership, and they're willing to rally around you. Even if that communication is, I messed up and I made a mistake. I work at Columbia University. We all see what's going on over there, right? One of the things that I appreciate is that the board and upper administration, they make sure to communicate every day with the staff. This is what's going on. This is the plan for today. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Every morning around 4:30, we get these emails with, this is the plan for today. This is what has happened. This is what we're trying to do. We're having conversations with students. We're trying to dissolve and resolve these issues. We're trying to have conversations with the students. Open communication. All right, we tried this, didn't necessarily work. My bad. Being able to admit that you messed up and that you made a mistake will go a long way for the trust of people, because you're human. We're all humans and we're all in the process of learning. Poor communication can magnify conflict. No communication leaves others to their own interpretations and their own judgments. When you are silent on certain things, it leaves people to run with their imagination. And people's imaginations are wild. If only they would use their powers for good, right? If only you use that imagination to help us get through this problem. But instead, you ever had a conversation with yourself and you had a whole argument with somebody in your head that, yo, if he says something to me, I'm gonna say this. And before you know, you've had a whole argument with the person in your head that you haven't said to them outwardly. And now you develop these conclusions and these ideas that don't even match the person. Then you have a conversation with the person and you're like, oh, it wasn't even all of that. So when there's no communication, you leave people to their own interpretation. So effective communication is very vital in leadership, especially in times of conflict. Creativity and adaptability. Creativity and adaptability allows leaders to adjust their approach in response to changing circumstances and new challenges without compromising the vision. This is vital because, again, like I said, it's easy to follow after convenience. It is a natural instinct to protect myself. And so when you are a leader in a troubling situation, you want to avoid compromising the vision for convenience. And so the mission doesn't change, but the strategy changes. If you want to be relevant, if you want to be impactful, you have to be able to be creative enough and adaptable enough that, all right, this didn't work, so I need to pivot. Many organizations, many businesses, many churches fail because of the lack of ability to adapt and to pivot. We see it from the residue of COVID. How many churches have closed? How many businesses have closed? Because there was no strategy on how to adapt. There was no creative processing or strategic thinking in how do I adjust with this ongoing situation. And so the mission doesn't change, but the strategy may change. I know you put time into planning this thing and you had every step and you thought it was a great idea, but you need to pivot. And you need to pivot quick so that you can stay relevant and you can stay impactful. Creative leaders set themselves apart by offering unique perspectives, approaches, and solutions. And then creative leaders find opportunities in chaos. They find opportunities in chaos. Our introduction to God is in a chaotic situation. In the beginning, the earth was without form and void, and the Spirit hovered over the face of the darkness, of the deep. There was void, there was emptiness, and that sparked the creativity of God to say, let there be. And so, as a leader and as someone in a role in a position of leadership, it's important to develop creativity and utilize that creativity in the moments of void, emptiness, and chaos. Many of the inventions that we have and the things that we have today was birthed because of chaos. Because there was an issue that needed to be solved, there was a void in an industry that needed to be solved, and someone with a creative imagination decided to jump in and fill that void. Traveling by boat was taking too long. So someone said, I wonder if we could fly. Think about it, because 1906 is when the airplane was invented. So just under 100 years, or just about 100 years, that now flying has become a normal means of transportation? That's because someone saw a void, someone saw chaos and allowed their creativity to play. And now the thing that was thought as being crazy back then is now normal for today. So as leaders, we got to be creative. Check. As resilient leaders, we need emotional intelligence. For the sake of time, I won't go through every point, but these are the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. As leaders, you have to learn to be self-aware, to recognize your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own triggers. We all have triggers. And so being able to identify those triggers and being able to develop a way to respond to those triggers and to exercise self-control is very important, because someone can say something or do something that will trigger you and it could do damage. And so how do you respond when things, because people, when they're under pressure, you'll see some things. And I know it's often said that pressure shows who you really are. I think that's part of it. I don't fully 100% agree with that. I think who we are is a compilation of who we are when things are good, who we are when things are bad, and who we want to become. We are all on that spectrum, because who we are today is not necessarily who we're trying to become. And so we're growing, we're learning, and we're work in progress. And so self-awareness is important to understand where you are. Today is not the day. Today is not the day for the shenanigans. And I am self-aware enough to know that today is not the day. Self-awareness is important, because then it leads to self-management, because now you know how to regulate. And then social awareness, how people are behaving around you, will help you to manage those relationships. And so as a resilient leader, you have to possess the self-awareness, understand your emotions, strengths, weaknesses, and triggers. You have to be able to regulate your emotions, remain calm and composed under pressure. You have to be able to demonstrate empathy towards others and understand their emotions, their strengths, their weaknesses, their perspectives, and their needs. And then you have to possess the social skills to be able to resolve conflict. A lot of people are introverts, and it's not a normal response to want to deal with conflict. And so a lot of us try as much as we can to avoid conflict, and we try to avoid getting involved in situations. But as a leader, we have to learn conflict resolution. We have to learn how to have those uncomfortable conversations, because it's necessary. And it's necessary not in the sense of, I'm going to rebuke you and I'm going to reprimand you and I'm going to correct you, right? But it is, how can I help you grow? How do I help you see that your perspective needs to change? How do I get you to see it from a different angle? And then how do I get you to grow, right? With our children, I have 2 children, a son and a daughter. They argue every day. Every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, they argue. 12 o'clock in the afternoon, they argue. 7 o'clock in the evening, they argue. And we have to have these conversations that you guys have to learn how to resolve whatever issue you guys have. All right? You don't want him to play with your toys? You need to communicate, I don't want you to play with my toys right now. You don't want her to disturb you while you're playing your game? You need to communicate, I'm trying to play my game, I'll play with you later. Conflict resolution is necessary in leadership. And so we have to have emotional intelligence as leaders, especially as resilient leaders, because as we are dealing with more and more conflict, and 2024 has been a year of conflict. We are in May, and a lot of things that have taken place did not expect to take place. I jokingly said that Cat Williams opened a portal that set 2024 off in the wrong direction. But as leaders, we have to be able to problem solve and understand how to handle that, and that needs emotional intelligence, because we have to learn how to manage our emotions, but also managing the emotions of others, and respect that as well. Now, two very important statements. We understand this scripture, right? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But Christ has not strengthened me to do all things.
Amen.
It's important to understand that. Yes, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, but he has not strengthened us to do all things.
Don't switch it yet. I need that on my phone because I have to tell myself that.
It's important because we get into these situations where we feel like we have to do everything. And the truth of the matter is that Christ has not strengthened us to do everything. Did you get it?
Yes, I have.
All right.
Thank you.
We are leaders, not heroes. There's a difference between suffering for our purpose and suffering for God versus suffering for the convenience and comfort of others. We want to take care of people, but there are going to be times where our purpose and pleasing God is going to conflict with taking care of people. And sometimes we sacrifice one for the other, thinking that we can do both. I can be on the mountaintop, God, but I could also be with the people so they're not building idols and golden calves. You can't. Yes, sir. Thank you. And so it's very easy to fall into the trap of feeling like I have to be the hero in a situation versus being a leader. While we're called to build vision, create impact, and inspire others, we have to understand that there's a difference between a leader and a hero. While heroes and leaders both have their place, leadership is more sustainable. It's more inclusive and it's more impactful. And by striving to be a leader rather than a hero, we create lasting change, empower others, and build stronger, more resilient communities. Heroes often act alone and rarely ask for help. Leaders empower others to work as a collective. Heroes try to solve problems in the moment. Leaders try to create lasting impact or change. Heroes will sacrifice themselves for others. Leaders will sacrifice to empower others. Heroes are measured by their personal success, while leaders are measured by their commitment and impact on others. Heroes have fans and followers, but leaders build other leaders. Heroes have secret identities. Heroes have secret identities where I can't let you see my flaws. I have to always show up as this confident, firm person who knows exactly what we're doing all the time. I have to always be Superman. I can't show you Clark Kent because Clark Kent has flaws. Clark Kent makes mistakes. Clark Kent has issues. But I can't be that. I can't let you see that. That's how heroes think. Leaders are transparent. Hey, listen, I make mistakes. I'm not going to get it all right. It's either you with me or you're not.
Amen.
It's either we're to end this together or we're not, because I have to have room and you have to give me grace. Just like you want grace to be able to make mistakes, I need grace too, because I don't know everything and I can't pretend to know everything. I advise students, and sometimes they'll ask me questions and I'll say, it's a great question. You should contact this person because they'll be able to give you more accurate information, because I am not 100% sure. It's important. And so heroes are afraid to have flaws. Leaders accept flaws as part of the growth process. Many people fall into the trap of wanting to be a hero versus a leader because it's more gratifying. Because people will praise you, people will honor you, people will thank you, people will give you attention.
And they would also say crucify.
They will also say crucify you. But oftentimes people think that as a leader, this is the stuff that validates who I am as a leader. Being a leader is a little bit of a longer process. Because whenever you're trying to create lasting effect and things that are going to outlive you, it takes time.
Right.
And so you're not going to have that instant gratification of, oh man, you are so amazing. You are so great. Thank you so much. You're not going to get that, especially if you're consistent. Because when you're consistent, then people just expect that.
That's right. That's right.
People just expect that, hey, this is what you do. Right? Jesus, he fed the 5,000. And the Bible says that when he perceived that they were going to take him and force him to become king, he withdrew from the crowd. Because he understood that he met a need, and when you meet a need, people will always expect you to consistently meet that need. At some point, they started following Jesus just because of the bread, just because of the fishes. And Jesus is like, repent. Jesus is trying to teach repentance and the kingdom of heaven. And they're like, yeah, that's cool, but where's the bread? And so, fish king. And so it's important that as leaders that we not strive to be heroes. Yes, being a leader is not as gratifying and we don't get as much attention or appreciation, but in the long run, being a leader is more sustainable and more impactful. And the thing that you want to do is not be impressive, but be impactful. Because impressions will fade, but impact lasts beyond you. And I say to leaders all the time that leadership is a lifetime project, because your goal is to build something that's going to outlive you. All of our greatest leaders that we look at, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, right? Even in the Bible, Abraham, Moses, David, all these people were able to have lasting impacts that generations later we're still seeing the fruit of it. And so even though it's not as fun all the time, it's more impactful. And so with that, you have to know your limitations. What is your physical limitation? All right. Limitation. Oh no, when the script, all of these things. What is your physical limitation? What is your emotional limitation? Mental limitation? What is the limitation on people? So some days you just don't want to deal with people, and you need to understand when those days are and follow those limitations. What is your limitation in creativity, production, and leadership? It's important to know your limitations so that you can set the proper boundaries, so that you can be able to continue to be effective. Rest and self-care is important. Self-care is not selfish. Just because I say I can't this time when I've always said yes does not mean that I'm being selfish. I just need a moment. One of my favorite movies is The 5 Heartbeats. And The guy comes to him and says, I need to talk about my royalties. And he says, my office hours are between 9 and 5. Come back between 9 and 5 and we can talk about it. You have to set those boundaries so that you can be able to recoup and refresh. Resilient leaders are better equipped to navigate uncertainty, persevere through challenges, maintain positive outlook while practicing self-care. The devil likes to attack a tired person. And so when you're tired, that's when he attacks. The Bible says that when Jesus, after he had fasted, the Bible says he was a-hungered, and then the devil came to tempt him. And the devil didn't come to tempt him to try to cause him to abort his mission or his assignment. He tried to give him a shortcut. He said, if you bow before me, I'll give you all the nations of the world. I'll give all of this to you. His mission was to come and die to save the entire world. So you're tired, you're hungry. Just bow to me. I give that all to you. You don't got to die on the cross. That's how you fall into compromise. And so it's important to get that rest and that self-care so that you don't get to that place of being burnout, compassion fatigue, and all of these things that cause you to now try to take a shortcut. So self-care, rest is important. Find ways to get away and replenish. Hobbies, family time, vacations. I love vacations and I'm a firm proponent for vacations. Sleep, watch a movie, pray. All of these things are important because self-care is essential for leaders to maintain energy, clarity, resilience, and emotional intelligence. And with that being said, you can scan the QR code